What is going on, Dynasty Leaguers? Welcome into another episode of Drafting Lessons, the DLF TV show, where I grab a guest every single week and we run through a Dynasty startup or Dynasty rookie mock drafts. And so because the NFL draft has just wrapped up this past weekend and everybody's Dynasty drafts are just now starting to get going with all these rookies and everything, I thought we're going to do two more rookie mock drafts today, 4 rounds each, 1 quarterback, all the normal stuff. And for my guests today, I had him on for the first show ever of Drafting Lessons for a Dynasty startup mock. And so today I thought it would be perfect to have Ryan McDowell come in and do 2 4-round rookie mocks with us. So Ryan, how's it going, man?
Man, Addison, I'm glad to be back. First of all, I've loved the show. Was definitely honored to be your first guest on it. You've been killing it on here with some awesome guests and some pretty cool content, a new way to look at mock draft and player analysis. So now we know the next piece, right? We know the draft capital, we know the landing spot. That's what we've been waiting on. And that's kind of the final piece of the puzzle. So we can really dig into these players and their new value. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is the fun part of Dynasty is all these rookie drafts. And yeah, like you said, now that the draft is over, we know landing spots and we can do a whole nother step of analysis for all these rookie players. So we're going to do 2 4-round drafts. The first one will be out of the 101, and then the second one will be out of the 107. So I got it queued up here for the 101, and we're just going to get right into it. Alrighty, Ryan, because we are on the clock at the 101, we got basically the pick of the litter. And because it's a 1 quarterback league, I imagine that you have 2 players really that you're trying to decide between here. But I'm going to let you take it over here and give us your pick for the 101.
Yeah, you're right about that. Definitely, I think the 101 is the decision between 2 players in a 1 quarterback format. I do actually have the 101 pick in one league this year, and I'm pretty sure this is the pick I'll be making. I'll take Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. Like most of us, really, like almost everybody, he was not my RB1 pre-draft, but that landing spot it's the dream. That's what we all were really wanting. And I said it myself. I think I heard others say it. If one of those top 5 running backs lands with Kansas City in the first round or even in the second round, that player is going to be the 101. And we've all heard the comps, Brian Westbrook and Priest Holmes, guys like that. Even a Christian McCaffrey comp. Not sure if I'm quite going that far with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I do think he is worthy of the 101. The draft was really also just a reminder of the short lifespan of running backs. We saw some veteran backs just get their value zapped, including Damian Williams on that same team, Kerryon Johnson and Aaron Jones to a degree, Mark Ingram to a degree. I think some of those Marlon Mack, right? So when you're drafting running backs, even at the 101 spot, I think you have to think of that as basically a 3-year investment. If you get 3 years out of that player, you've got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, so I don't disagree whatsoever with Clyde Edwards-Helaire as the 101, and it's a pretty divisive pick in terms of him or Jonathan Taylor. You got Edwards-Helaire is the landing spot darling, but Taylor fell into a pretty good situation as well too with the Indianapolis Colts, and I think it's basically the most 1-to-1 transition from what he was like in Wisconsin and that team format to now going to Indianapolis. What was the decision for you just picking Edwards-Helaire over Taylor? Was it strictly because of Kansas City and Andy Reid's history with running backs, or was there something a little bit more going on with that?
Yeah, that's really all it is. I mean, I think the knocks are out there, or probably shouldn't even say knocks. At least the concern is out there about Taylor's upside in a PPR league. How much involvement is he going to have in the passing game? And that's still a concern, I think. So for me, he was the 101 pre-draft. Love the landing spot. No issues with him in Indianapolis, and honestly not really worried about about Marlon Mack, but I think both Mack or Nyheim Hines could serve as that pass catcher out of the backfield. So I'm wondering if Taylor will even get the opportunity for dump offs. It's funny. I talked about on a couple different podcasts. I talked about having those same concerns with Melvin Gordon when he came out of Wisconsin. He wasn't involved as a pass catcher in college, and we saw him turn into a good one. And ironically, we saw him turn into a good pass catcher with Phillip Rivers. So we'll see if Taylor gets there, but I think the situation with Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City is just enough to move him ahead. But obviously no issue with Taylor at 101 or 102 either.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting decision for everybody with the 101. And I really think you just can't go wrong, to be honest. I think that's my ultimate opinion on that. So we're on the clock now, 2:01. The rest of the first round for everybody watching: Jerry Jeudy, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, CeeDee Lamb, Cam Akers, Jalen Reagor, Joe Burrow sneaking in here in the first round in one quarterback leagues, Justin Jefferson, Henry Ruggs, and then Laviska Shenault to round out the first. So at the 2:01, we're looking at T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, Michael Pittman, Keyshawn Vaughn, Brandon Ayuk, Tua is still there, Zach Moss, Brian Edwards, KJ Hamler, basically the laundry list of all these wide receivers, and then Keyshawn Vaughn and Zach Moss in terms of the running backs. So 2:01 here, Ryan, what are we looking at?
Yeah, I think this is, in some ways, this is kind of an easy exercise because I feel like I've looked at my rookie rankings and adjusted my rookie rankings dozens of times really in just the past few days. So not to say these are perfect, but at this point, I feel pretty confident in them. So I'm just running down my board. The next guy there is T. Higgins. I'd be comfortable with him in the late first round. So I'll definitely take him here at 2.01. I think we could see a little bit of a redshirt season for him this year behind AJ Green, behind Tyler Boyd. We even saw John Ross and Alden Tate flash a little bit at times last year. So could be a slow start for T. Higgins in 2020. But AJ Green will be gone then. Definitely would not be surprised if John Ross was gone as well at that point, and T. Higgins slides right into that starter's role with what we expect to be, who we expect to be one of the best young quarterbacks in the league in Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think that's, a really interesting spot for T. Higgins. I think that was his ultimate ceiling, was that he landed on a team, like a Houston Texans or a Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow. And that's really the thing that I think has elevated his, or maybe to some solidified the fact that he is a top 5 wide receiver in this class, is being on that team. And we know, AJ Green has had success on that team as well too. Tyler Boyd isn't really going to mix with T. Higgins. They're kind of two different players. And, obviously Joe Burrow, that's, going to be a fantastic quarterback, I think, in a lot of people's minds, myself included. So at the 2:01 there, I really have no issues whatsoever with T. Higgins. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ryan, but I would assume that you would take him over Laviska and Henry Ruggs probably as well too.
Yeah, definitely over Shenault. I think an argument can be made for Ruggs versus Higgins, but certainly over Shenault, who snuck into that first round there.
Yeah, I like it a lot. T. Higgins there at the 2:01. So we're back on the clock, 3:01. The rest of the second round went Michael Pittman, Denzel Mims, Keyshawn Vaughn, Brandon Ayuk, A.J. Dillon, KJ Hamler, Brian Edwards, Zach Moss, Tua, Anthony McFarland, and then Antonio Gibson at the 2:12. So at the 3:01 here, Justin Herbert is still there, Darrington Evans, Chase Claypool, Tyler Johnson, Cole Kmet, Eno Benjamin, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, AGG, Devin Duvernay, Lynn Bowden. This is kind of where the depth starts to drop off here. So I'm interested to see where you decide to go.
Sure, I'm going with Darrington Evans here. He was a running back that I was definitely coming around on, had a really strong combine, looks like he can be one of the best third down backs in the league. I think he slides right into that Dion Lewis role in Tennessee, hopefully even that Dion Lewis role plus, because we didn't see much from Lewis last year as Henry dominated those carries. And we know Derrick Henry's basically on a 1-year contract as the franchise tag player. So I don't think Evans will ever be a player that you look at as an every down back or as your team starter, the Titans starter. But in the third round, a solid depth back with a little bit of PPR upside.
Yeah, I think that's his ultimate ceiling there is the handcuff kind of back. If you were a Derrick Henry owner, would you try to prioritize Darrynton Evans or are you kind of looking elsewhere? If you own Derrick Henry.
I mean, I like Evans, so regardless if I own Henry or not, I'd be targeting him. But I don't think that would make me necessarily move him up in my ranks or prioritize him, as you say. That's typically not something I do in rookie drafts anyway. Really, just kind of take the best player available.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify that just to be sure there. I mean, I think Darrynton Evans is a really solid player. I like the Tennessee spot in the sense that you said that, he's kind of like that Dion Lewis and hopefully a little bit more as well, too, since he's younger. And I think also a better running back as well, too. And then he has that overall upside of should Derrick Henry get injured or even looking on to next year, if the Titans decide not to bring him back, Evans is in a smash spot to succeed on an offense that prioritizes running the ball. And I would imagine that even if they get rid of Derrick Henry, they would try to look for, someone else as well, too, just in terms of depth and all that stuff. But Evans would have, just as good a shot as anybody on that roster if Henry is not the player to be starting for them next year. So in the third round there, if that's his overall upside, I think you could do a lot worse, especially when you look at the other running backs and other players, like Benjamin or Van Jefferson or anything like that. My only question, other than the Darrynton Evans pick, do you prioritize running back when you're down this low, or is it just Evans is a better player in your mind than guys like Chase Claypool, who has that second round draft capital to the Steelers? I mean, some of these other guys were late round picks as well, too. Like Tyler Johnson fell to the depth chart down in Tampa Bay. AGG might have a shot in Washington, but there's a lot of other guys there too, just kind of all like vying for that wide receiver 2 spot. So what was the pick for Evans over, I guess, primarily Claypool and maybe also AGG as well too?
Sure. Yeah, I think both of those have both Claypool and Gandy Golden have some things going for them. I do like Gandy Golden quite a bit. Kind of honestly wary of any Redskins players. We'll see if this new leadership, new coaching staff can kind of turn things around there. Would think he would have the opportunity really with Terry McLaurin, the only established talent there, a couple other young guys along with him. So I think Andy Golden will have a shot. Claypool, I don't really know. I was sure, like everyone was sure, that the Steelers would draft a running back there. They go wide receiver instead. It's like that's all they do is draft wide receivers on day 2. So that pick really surprised me. The only thing I would really say about him is he is very different than the 3 guys they have right now in their rotation: Washington and Deontay Johnson and Juju. So definitely he offers something different than those guys, just with that big body, that physical play, red zone threat. But at the same time, to me, he looks like the 4th option there at best. And that's not even considering Eric Ebron, Vance McDonald. So he's another one I would expect to get off to a slow start. We know he basically came on with that strong combine, and I'm just trying not to chase, those combine warriors too much. I wouldn't say I necessarily target one position over the other in the later rounds of rookie draft. Again, just kind of best player available. Looking at my ranks and my draft board, really. Evans is a player I'm targeting. I would take him late in the second even. So it was a pretty easy call early in the third round. And guys like him, and there's a lot of others. We've already seen some of them drafted, McFarland and Joshua Kelly as well. Those young running backs, it seems like, have an easier path to making an impact versus a young wide receiver.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So 401 here, last pick in this draft, Ryan. that was all the third round players that I kind of highlighted, mostly also including, Justin Herbert and Cole Kmet. Devin Duvernay is there, and Donovan Peoples-Jones at the end of the third round. So we're looking at, Jordan Love is there in terms of quarterbacks, Lynn Bowden, Adam Troutman, and Albert O, and Bryson Hopkins, all for the tight ends, and Hunter Bryant down there too. LaMichael P. Ryan, Jacob Eason is there as well too. Quintez Cephas, Colin Johnson, Harrison Bryant, KJ Hill, Thaddeus Moss, who was picked up by the Redskins. Just a lot of dart throws here. So at the 401, last pick of this draft, where are we looking at for this one?
Yeah, there's a couple of these running backs in the same vein as what we were just talking about, guys who could come in and see some immediate playing time, at least be the primary backup. Looking at LaMichael P. Ryan with the Jets, DJ Dallas in Seattle, and of course, we know Dallas's opportunity primarily comes from the injuries with both Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. But I've got to be a homer here. I've got to take Lynn Bowden. I hope every draft goes like this, and I get him in the late third or the early fourth round. Pretty easy pick for me. I can't wait to see how the Raiders use this guy. We know they don't want to throw the ball to Josh Jacobs for whatever reason. Bowden can run the ball. We saw him lead the SEC in rushing last year, basically playing the Wildcat quarterback position in 2/3 of the games. We know he, of course, can catch the ball as a wide receiver, and we'll just see how they use him. But I think he's going to put up some fantasy points, regardless of what his position designation might be.
Yeah, and I mean, in the fourth round, if he ends up being that gadgety type player who's a better NFL player than fantasy player, you're not, wasting a very expensive pick on that fourth round. That's a better dart throw than a lot of the other players as well too. There's a couple other wide receivers that I have my eye on, but I would, definitely have Lynn Bowden at the top of that list. I'm looking at guys like James Prochet, who got drafted by the Ravens, and Albert O has been my tight end love of this draft since like the beginning of the season. So there's all those names. Everybody's going to have their guy, but I think Lynn Bowden needs to be at the top of that list. And certainly, his upside, like you said, with the explosiveness that he offers, both, passing the ball, running the ball, catching the ball, whatever and however the Raiders decide to use him, I think that offers, a lot of opportunity for fantasy points. And again, fourth round, you could do a lot worse than Lynn Bowden there.
Yeah, I know. Most of my rookie drafts are 4 rounds, and there are years where teams get to the fourth round and they don't even have anybody they want to pick. Maybe they don't want to drop anybody off their roster, or they just are giving up on the rookie draft. Maybe they're grabbing a veteran free agent instead of a rookie. That's not going to be the case this year. With even though I'm a big Kentucky fan and fan of Lynn Bowden, that made that an easy pick. But there were plenty of strong options, even as you look there through the rest of the fourth round. It again just shows the depth of this rookie class.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the end of the first draft. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, T. Higgins, Darrington Evans, and Lynn Bowden out of the 101 spot. So we're just going to go right into it. The second draft here, we said was going to be out of the 7 spot, 4 rounds, do all that stuff. So we're just going to go right into it here again and see what we're at when we get on the clock. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, and Jonathan Taylor were the first 4 in that order, and then Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. So at the 107, a lot of different names than what we had in the other draft. Cam Akers, Justin Jefferson, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Reagor, T. Higgins is still there as well too, and then of course all the other wide receivers as well. So 107 here, Ryan. I'm curious to see, because there's a lot of controversy in this kind of middle tier of the first round in terms of rankings and stuff. So I'm curious on who you're going to be deciding to pick here.
Well, I think you have a couple of strong options here, actually several strong options, but for me, it comes down to 2 players. Looking at the name there at the top of the board, Cam Akers, we know lands with the Rams. The presumed new starter with Todd Gurley gone. Of course, Darrell Henderson's still there. Malcolm Brown's still there. I don't think the Rams want to lean on either one of those guys as their starter. And they made that pretty clear with taking Akers in round 2. So he's definitely a strong consideration at this point. And he's a player that in a lot of years might be your 101 or 102 pick. So to think you could get him with the 7th pick is pretty exciting. And kind of the theme of this whole year goes back to the depth of the class, not only through 4 rounds, but even the top heavy depth. Actually, the player I'm going to take here, though, is Jalen Reagor. Lands with the Eagles. I expect him, and I think most people expect him to be their top target basically from day one. We all remember just the disaster that was last season with the Eagles. Everybody was hurt or a disappointment in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's case. So the Eagles were clearly not going to let that happen again. They draft 3 rookies. They trade for Marquise Goodwin. All 4 of those wide receivers they add are all about speed, and that's Jalen Reagor's game. I think he'll be a great fit with Carson Wentz there, and I think he's going to be their wide receiver 1 basically from the jump.
Yeah, I love that pick with Jalen Reagor. He is my wide receiver 3 behind Lamb and Judy post draft, and I mean I have no problem whatsoever with bumping him ahead of of Jerry Jeudy as well too, as the wide receiver 2. And it's primarily because of that landing spot, and that is why pre-draft a lot of people were talking about Justin Jefferson being the pick there for the Eagles at 21, and that is why I was really on Justin Jefferson. Because I just presumed that they would draft him, and that would be it. It was almost like whoever you inserted there for the Eagles in the first round, if it was a wide receiver, they were automatically going to become a top 3 option in this class. Right. And with it being Jalen Reagor, I think he fell a little bit, and people started questioning more of his talent and I guess athleticism as well too, because of the 4.47 40 at the combine. A lot of people expected sub 4.4s or even like sub 4.35 or contest Ruggs for the overall fastest wide receiver, and he didn't hit that. So I think some people kind of tempered their expectations, but Jalen Reagor with the Philadelphia Eagles with Carson Wentz, a significant improvement over what he had in college. It's not even going to be funny, the difference, between his quarterback play from the college to the NFL. He is going to destroy as the Eagles wide receiver 1, like you said, from the get-go. And I love grabbing Jalen Reagor everywhere that you can in this, kind of mid to late first round picks. So I love it.
Yeah, Rager's combine actually kind of reminded me in some ways of DK Metcalf from last year, because Metcalf had such a dominating combine performance. He ran an amazing time in the 40, really performed well at basically every event, and then had that disastrous 3-cone time. And It was like, that's what everybody got stuck on, is this 3-cone time. And with Reagor, it was really kind of the same way. He dominated every event, including the 40, but because his 40 time was viewed as slower than expected, people thought he might challenge Henry Ruggs, and that wasn't even close to the case. His combine as a whole was viewed as a disappointment, and again, that's not the reality. He had one of the best combines of any wide receiver, just like DK Metcalf did a year ago. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great way to look at it. And so Jalen Reagor, wide receiver 3 off the board here, the new Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver 1. I love that pick. So to round out the first, let me just read you the names: Cam Akers, Henry Ruggs, Tua jumping in here, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, and then further the top of the second went Keyshawn Vaughn, Denzel Mims, Joe Burrow, A.J. Dillon, Laviska Shenault, and Michael Pittman. So at the 207, we are looking at Brandon Ayuk, Zach Moss, Brian Edwards, KJ Hamler, Justin Herbert is there at the quarterback position, Antonio Gibson, Darrington Evans, and then a bunch of the guys that were in the 3rd round of the previous draft. So at the 207, what are we looking for here, Ryan?
Yeah, before I look at those options, I did want to throw out some thoughts about quarterback. We saw in the first mock, Burrow went in the 1st round. We saw Tua go there. That probably looks out of place or a little crazy. Joe Burrow actually has a 1st round ADP in our DLF mocks. He's the 112. Wow. Yeah. So I was very surprised at that, but I think a lot of people are looking at him as basically coming right in and being the starter from day one with a nice set of weapons there in Cincinnati. And he feels like a safe pick. So if you get to the late first round and you're looking at wide receivers like Pittman or Higgins or Ayuk or Chenault, maybe you just play it safe and go with the quarterback. I personally would not do that. I wouldn't consider a quarterback really until around the range we are right now. But I don't think it's crazy that we will see some Burrow and Tua in that late first, early second round range. Here at 207, again, I'm just kind of looking down my list, and Brandon Ayuk is the next guy on it. And honestly, I don't think I would even really consider anybody else when I look at the names there. He's kind of the clear pick. Of course, lands in a good spot with the 49ers. They had a hole after Emmanuel Sanders left via free agency. They trade Marquise Goodwin, as we talked about earlier. Not much on the wide receiver depth chart after Deebo Samuel. So Ayuk should come in and play right away. We've seen this Shanahan coaching staff is not afraid to give playing time to rookies. We saw it with Samuel last year, maybe out of necessity, but it's going to be the same situation this year. Love that first round draft capital that he got. It's funny. He actually ended up being drafted higher than his former teammate, N'Keal Harry, who was definitely more highly thought of at the time.
Yeah, I think Ayuk is a really interesting name because he's, for a first round draft capital guy, he is not being mentioned with some of the other players like T. Higgins or Laviska or Michael Pittman or Denzel Mims. Those guys still seem to be generally above him, or it's kind of talked about in the same vein. But Ayuk has the draft capital, and he's also on a team now that, like you said, they have a hole there at the wide receiver 2 spot. It's going to be Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, and then George Kittle obviously being the target hog there. But Ayuk slides in very nicely, and he's kind of that same type of wide receiver that Kyle Shanahan likes. It's very similar to, I think, Deebo Samuel. They got the speed. He's got the height, and just everything about him kind of just screams successful wide receiver in a Shanahan offense. And I'm with you there. I don't think there was really any other pick that you should have went there at the 207. It's just really interesting to me that, he slides down here to the middle second when I think that he could be considered up with guys like Justin Jefferson and definitely above at least Denzel Mims and Laviska for me. If you want to, compare Ayuk and Pittman and Higgins, I think that's fine as well too. But being the last wide receiver out of all these guys in this mock, I think is really interesting to me, and I don't think should be the case.
Yeah, I don't really either. I agree with you. I think he's in that tier with Pittman, Higgins, Chenault. I do have Jefferson maybe closer to Rager, kind of locked in as that wide receiver 4, I guess it is. So I don't know that I would have a tough decision if it was Jefferson versus Ayuk, but all the rest, I agree with you. Ayuk should be in that mix, and if he falls to 2.07, it's going to be a pretty easy pick.
Yeah, absolutely. So rest of the second round here, Antonio Gibson, Justin Herbert, Van Jefferson, my boy KJ Hamler, and then Brian Edwards. And then for the third round, it went Antonio Gandy Golden, Eno Benjamin, Chase Claypool, Zach Moss, Anthony McFarland, and then Darrington Evans went just the pick before us. So 307 here, Tyler Johnson, Cole Kmet, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jordan Love, and Jalen Hurts are the 2 quarterbacks available. Devin Duvernay, Lynn Bowden, Adam Troutman, Albert O, and then a bunch of other of these guys that were in the 4th round. So what are we looking for here, Ryan?
Yeah, let's see. So Bowden would actually be the next guy on my rankings. I'm going to go with a different direction here since we picked him, because the next player on my list is also available, and I have those guys close. I think he's available at least. Is Joshua Kelly still out there?
Yes, yeah. He is.
Yeah, so I'll take Joshua Kelly. Lands with the Chargers early on day 3. And we know the Chargers story. They let Melvin Gordon go. That leaves them with Austin Eckler, who gets the new contract, Justin Jackson. And I like both Eckler and Jackson for what they bring and their kind of their different roles on that team. But those two are similar players. And Joshua Kelly, I think, brings a little bit something different to that team. And because of that, I could see him with a role immediately. I think that pick is probably bad news for Justin Jackson. It will still certainly be Austin Eckler's show, but grabbing his backup in the third round is a solid value there.
Yeah, I was surprised, honestly, that the Chargers didn't try to grab somebody earlier or at least a more significant name, but it became very apparent whenever they traded back up into the first round on day one, using that second round pick to trade back up. And then they traded away their third round pick, I think, to do that move as well, too. So it was, really interesting. And that speaks volumes, I think, for their belief in Austin Eckler. But Joshua Kelly is a really interesting name. And, to be honest with you, Ryan, I think I would rather have Joshua Kelly than Darrington Evans, because I think Kelly is closer to a starting role, or at least, more snaps immediately than Darrington Evans. Even though I believe Evans has a higher ceiling, I think Kelly, gets snaps and more significant snaps, what am I trying to say? Sooner. He gets a snap sooner. So that's just me personally. So I don't have any problem with Evans over Kelly, but if it was me drafting, I would have Kelly ahead of Darrington Evans and probably McFarland as well too, because I still believe that the Pittsburgh backfield is James Conner and only James Conner until he gets hurt. So McFarland's going to have to fight with Benny Snell and Jalen Samuels for playing time too. But Kelly, I think is a pretty clear shot to snaps there. I don't know if you hate what I'm saying or not.
No, I'm on board with that. Like I said, I do. I mean, Kelly, and this is kind of what you're alluding to. Kelly's just more of your traditional lead back. So that doesn't mean he's going to take that job or even assume the Melvin Gordon role for the Chargers. But I do think he will have a role. And your point is a good one. Maybe Evans is not. Maybe the Titans know this is going to be it for Derrick Henry in Tennessee. He's on that franchise tag, and they just continue to run him into the ground until the wheels fall off. That's a possibility because we saw it work last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So just that's my personal opinion, even though I'm trying to get my guests to say stuff. That's my personal opinion on Joshua Kelly for everybody watching. So last pick here, Ryan. The rest of the third went Cole Kmet, Tyler Johnson, Devin Duvernay, Peoples-Jones, and then Quintez Cephas. And then in the top of the fourth went DJ Dallas, Lynn Bowden, Bryson Hopkins, Jalen Hurts, Gabriel Davis, and then Adam Troutman. So at the 407 here, Jordan Love is still there. Albert O, LaMichael Pirine, Hunter Bryant, Jacob Eason, Colin Johnson, Harrison Bryant, KJ Hill, Thaddeus Moss, Isaiah Hodgins is there as well too. James Prochet, a bunch of other of these dart throw players. So last pick here, Ryan, what are we looking for?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of follow the same script as the previous round with the Kelly pick. I'm going running back and a running back that I could see having an immediate role. I'll take LaMichael Pirine here with the Jets. There was a thought at one point, or for much of the season, that 2019 might be Le'Veon Bell's final season with the Jets. They end up keeping him, but again, no one would be surprised if this is kind of his curtain call with the Jets, and they move on after this year. And their depth chart behind Bell is just atrocious. It's so ugly. No proven talent there at all. I mean, guys like Josh Adams. I can't even remember because it doesn't matter. LaMichael Pirine can definitely be the number two there immediately. He's not even a guy I really loved coming into the draft. But any of these guys, Kelly, Pirine, McFarland, Dallas, any of those players that landed with the Jets, I would be chasing in this fourth round.
Yeah. And again, I said this last pick too, fourth round here, you're just looking for guys who have, the possibility of opportunity. And, like you said, I'm also in agreement with you as well too, that this might possibly be Le'Veon Bell's final year with New York. And he also hasn't been a stranger to injuries as well too. over the course of his career. And Perron has that opportunity to just come in, be the primary backup, maybe spell Le'Veon every now and then, even though Le'Veon was like basically the highest used running back in terms of like market share
Right.
for rush attempts and everything for the Jets. Maybe that's not something that Adam Gase wants out of Le'Veon Bell, and we know Gase hasn't been the biggest fan of the fact that they paid for Le'Veon Bell and all that stuff too. So having Perron come in and being the primary backup, I think is interesting enough for me to at least for sure drop a 4th round pick on him and just see what the potential and the opportunity for him is. And who knows, maybe you get a starter mid-season because Le'Veon goes down or Le'Veon isn't on the team anymore and Perron just slides right in. It's always a ceiling with these guys, but I think Perron has an excellent shot there at hitting that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons Bell saw that usage is, again, the other players on their depth chart. They really had no other option. So it was all Bell all the time. And I think we could see that change a little bit this year. The great thing about this running back class, and a lot of people are talking about it with the big 5, Edwards-Helaire, Swift, Taylor, Dobbins, and Akers all land in nice spots where they could be basically could assume the starting role pretty quickly. But even the depth guys that you're considering in the 3rd and 4th round, the names that we've already talked about, Kelly, P. Ryan, McFarland, Dallas, Vaughn's a little bit higher than that. Moss is higher than that. But all of those guys landed in great spots. I think there were 18 running backs drafted, maybe 20. And basically every single one ended up in a nice landing spot. I know the Lions took a pass catching back late in the draft. I think the Redskins did as well. So those are kind of dart throws. But every one of these running backs that we were tracking coming in have some nice landing spots. So that's exciting, and it pumps up all of their value.
Yeah, absolutely. So that concludes the 2 4-round mock drafts with you here, Ryan. The first one being out of the 101 and the second one being out of the 107. I think they're both fantastic. 4 sets of picks, and I don't really have any differences in terms of who you would have picked at any of those. So I thought they were really done and just nicely drafted. So Ryan, I think everybody knows who you are in terms of being with like the face of DLF and everything like that. So I know we got a lot of rookie stuff coming out on DLF. So why don't you maybe highlight some stuff that is going to be coming out or has already came out that you were really excited about, and just share with the people everything that they can expect from DLF here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already got a ton of content that we've pumped out covering the draft, talking about winners and losers. We've got multiple mock drafts already on the site in article form. Everybody has updated their rankings, so you can find 1 quarterback rookie rankings. That's what we talked about today. You can find Superflex rookie rankings, IDP rookies, all of that covered on the site. We'll have rookie ADP posted very soon, and we actually pull that from a couple different sources. So one is the mock drafts that I run each month, and then 2, we also pull actual rookie drafts from Dynasty leagues on MFL. So if you're worried about people maybe trying to throw in some crazy picks in a rookie mock, that's understandable. Check out the actual rookie drafts that are already taking place. We've got that ADP for you as well. And then coming up, we're doing player profiles of basically every relevant rookie. We'll have close to 50 of those, maybe even more. I am personally working on a 2021 rookie mock draft. That's one of my projects. Yeah. That's one of my projects I do every year. Just a 1 year look ahead. So I'll be looking at names like Rondell Moore and Jamar Chase and Trevor Lawrence. And, we hear it every year. Wait until next year. I don't think anybody wants to take their eyes off of this 2020 class, but 2021 should be pretty fun as well, especially at the wide receiver position. So I'll be working on that and look for that in the coming days as well.
Yeah, and don't forget Travis Etienne going back to school as well too. Could have been, the top running back in this class had he came out. So
Well, that's the really crazy thing, because it felt like this year you had more guys going back that were presumed to come in. I know a lot of people have talked about this, but it's Etienne and Chase. I'm sorry, Etienne and Hubbard and Tylan Wallace and Najee Harris. And there were a couple of others. So there's a handful of these guys that could have been in this class. We could be looking at the last pick of the second round being a real huge prospect and instead. So, I mean, it's crazy that the class that we have could have been even better.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's all fantastic content coming out from DLF. If you guys are not DLF Premium members, the link will be in the description as well too. You can go in and get access to all that stuff on there as well. And in terms of the video content, you know, I'm doing these drafting lessons every single week. We got the DLF mailbag coming out on Thursdays. Ray's going to start doing some more rookie film studies here, where he actually dives into all of these rookies and looks at their college film and then talks about how they can translate into the NFL, and just gives you a more kind of player profile-y type video content too. Ryan, I know you got some ADP stuff in the works for video content, and Ray's also got us from the Always Covered videos. That is the weekly recap of what we've done at DLF, so you guys can get some insight into what you might have missed or are missing if you're not a premium member over there too. I would highly recommend grabbing a subscription and getting access to all that stuff, because we are pumping out mad rookie content right now to help you guys dominate all of your rookie drafts. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you are not already. Ring that notification bell, like this video, drop a comment down below if you want to hit up Ryan and tell him that you would rather have gone somewhere else with one of these picks, or to congratulate Ryan on some fantastic rookie selections. We'll respond to as many as we can. So thank you guys so much for watching this, and we will catch you guys later.